Welcome back to the France 24 debate. Today we're discussing Tuesday's horrific events in northwestern Syria, where at least 70 people have been killed, 20 of them children, in what appears to have been a chemical weapons attack in the rebel-held town of Khan Sheikhoun. Well, today with our panel, we're examining who was behind this attack, what explanations have been given, and do they stack up? Let's first listen, though, to a doctor who was on the scene there in Idlib. This is what he had to say.
In some of the cases, the victims arrived dead because the medical team took too long to arrive or took too long removing the rubble that covered them. In some cases, it was quite moderate and giving the victims atropine was enough. But in some critical cases, we had to use pralidoxine, the antidote. And they got better, but the quantity of antidote that we have is very small, so we have to transfer some victims to Turkey. But the border is very far, and on the way, many could die. Right now, we only have a small quantity of antidote left.
Okay, a doctor there in Idlib talking about some of the symptoms there of the patients and the treatment that they're being given after being exposed to what's assumed to have been sarin. Well, here with me in the studio is Aissa Midani, who is president of the Ashtar Descendants Association in Syria and also president of the network of Syrian scientists, innovators and technologists abroad. Welcome back. Wael Al-Khadli, who is a Paris-based Syria activist. Thank you for joining us again. Olivier Lepic from France's Foundation for Strategic Research and a chemical weapons expert. And in Beirut, we have with us The Guardian's Middle East correspondent, Martin Chulov. And just before we went to the break, Martin, you were putting that question to Olivier about just how likely it is that a chemical weapons depot was hit by a bomb and exploded and caused the sarin gas to be disseminated. And I think Olivier gave a pretty clear answer, a pretty resounding answer. It doesn't sound very likely. Is that the message you're getting as well?
The reports that we are getting from witnesses, from survivors, consistently is that there was an airstrike around about 6:20 in the morning, and that the people, there was no large explosion, there was no weapons depot in town, there was nothing that was actually hit apart from several houses. Now, we should get some answers to that in coming days. We should get some clarity. There will be people on the scene in that town, and it will be very interesting to see what they find. If there is indeed some kind of a depot that has been hit, then that should still exist. If it doesn't, then the Russian theory is in more trouble.
Let's just have a quick look at some of the symptoms of being exposed to sarin gas, because there's a whole range of different symptoms, and we can look at some of them now. And the point of this is just to be sure that what we're hearing anecdotally is indeed, it does correspond with what we understand was a sarin gas attack. Perhaps we can bring up that graphic for you and show you the symptoms of being exposed to sarin gas. If we can't, then why don't I put that question to Olivier Lepic. Just tell us a little bit more about the symptoms, there you go, of being exposed to sarin. And when you see that list, does that then make you think this was most certainly sarin and not some other nerve agent?
It's clearly a nerve agent. Can be sarin, but it can be other ones. There are lots of members in this SAD family. So, but if you look at the symptoms on a broader range, clearly it's a nerve agent because chlorine would produce completely different symptoms, and the toxicity of the product and the way it killed people, so many people, is clearly pointing out the sarin or a nerve agent in this occasion for sure. So, but we'll have the final answer in the coming hours for sure.
And of course, while you and you're an activist and you are aware, presumably, that this is not an isolated case, is that there have been other examples of chemical weapons being used in Syria. Just give us a little reminder.
Sure. I was myself one of the members of who collecting evidence in Ghouta Sharqiya, and we've been collecting evidence from the soil and from the people and from the bodies also. Oh, really? I think, yes, we have now the similar evidence that the same gas has been used 2013 at Ghouta Sharqiya, and has been held by the government and has been hidden from the United Nations through Lebanese mountains, and that a report has been declared by the United Nations in 2014 that the regime is hiding chemical weapons out of the areas, out of the official areas. So we know that it is regime attack, it is a regime kind of attack, it is a regime kind of chemical, because we used to, as I told you, used to absorb chloride all the last 3 years. It's not the same. So why doctors said yesterday that it's another chemical issue, because it's another chemical effect, another chemical, something has not been used in north of Syria, in south of Syria, in north of Syria, used only in south of Syria, in 2013. What I want to say is just one day before this chemical attack, there is another attack has been held in Douma city, 100 aircraft attack, 160 cannon bomb, and 40 persons has been killed in this city by the hand of the regime without chemical attack. So the regime is attacking all the areas, without using chemicals or using chemicals. He is killing the people and killing and killing. He wants to change. He wants to make a genocide, actually, war results, because it is orders of Iran. Now we have to understand the regime is under 100% control of Iran in Damascus. So why? Even Russians have problems with the regime inside of Damascus. So it is Iran.
So what you're saying is basically that Bashar al-Assad, when he says this was not us, he's actually telling the truth, because you're saying he doesn't know what's happening in his own country because he's not the one pulling the strings? Is that what you're saying? That he's a puppet?
I would say Iranians are not stupid that much to do it by themselves. So use that another monster to do it by himself.
Let me ask for your reaction to that, because we've heard so far the theory that that chemical weapons depot was hit by a stray bomb has been rubbished by all the experts. It simply doesn't make any sense. You can't have two chemicals that need to be mixed together suddenly being hit by a bomb and suddenly disseminating. That theory doesn't make any sense, does it?
Let me remind all these stories of chemical attacks. In 2013, in March, there were a terrorist attack in Khan with chemical weapons, and Syria has asked for an investigation committee from the UN for that time, and the UN didn't answer. This committee came only in August 2013. And in the 23rd of August, there is a chemical attack also in Douma, which the biggest coincidence is Douma has been also dominated by the terrorists from 2 years ago before that attack, and actually in Idlib is dominated and controlled under the control of terrorists from 4 years and 5 years, from 2012. So, and then this commission stayed, and they asked also to make the investigations. They asked them only just to tell if there is chemical weapons which has been used or not, but they didn't have been asked to determine who asked them, who used them. And when they told them to come back, the people of this commission, they protested because they said we didn't finish our work, we didn't determine who used these chemical weapons. They said, oh, it's okay, you will be back again. And then everything has been stopped. We didn't ask you to tell who used it, you just to have to tell if it has been used or not. I remind you that at that time, Syrian soldiers have been killed with this attack. So is it logical that the army, the Syrian army, kills itself with this attack? This is first. Second, actually now it's exactly the same thing in Idlib, which is under control of the terrorists, and they think it is. They say allegations without any proof and without any documentation, without nothing, just allegations. Telling that this is the Syrian army, and people have been killed. And I want to tell you also and remind everybody that all the reports, there were a report of Simon Hirsch who were telling that the implication of Turkey in giving all chemical weapons to the terrorists. There were also another report of Simon Hirsch also telling that the only people who used the chemical weapons were the terrorists. A declaration of Carla Del Ponte said about Khan al-Assad that yes, chemical weapons have been used, but the only people who used it was the so-called armed rebels. Okay, and then there is also a big report of the very serious institution, the MIT, who were telling also at that time that the chemical weapons have been used by the rebels, they tell them. Mm-hmm. Also, this is by the terrorists. So all this, we just put them there, and we just continue to make allegation against the Syrian government and against the President Bashar al-Assad. I want to tell, finally, one thing, that this usage of chemical weapons is against the ideology of the Syrian army, against the ethics of the Syrian army. Actually, the reconciliations are and happening everywhere in Syria. They are telling how much they are keen to see the Syrian army coming to protect them from all the terrorists and from this horrible reign of the terrorists.
All right, let me put this to you, Olivier. You just heard what she said. Can you just give chemical weapons to a group of rebels? Don't weapons like sarin and gases like sarin require expert handling, expert knowledge, not just the process of handing over a weapon?
Yeah, for sure. And even producing sarin is something very complicated. The only time a sub-state entities was able to produce that kind of nerve agents was the Aomarishiko entity in Japan. I don't think that any sub-state entity had the capacity to do that. I am a researcher. I am in facts. I'm not in propaganda or not in politics. I just examine the facts and try to see a rationale behind that. And what I hear is something I cannot confirm because the Syrian regime for a long time didn't admit possessing chemical weapons. At the end of the day, they were forced to recognize that Syria built a huge chemical arsenal starting in the mid-70s, and then they allowed the international community to have a close look at the program, dismantle it. So I guess that even though it's not in the mentality or of the Syrian army, but these weapons were produced to be used and not to be stockpiled in the desert for anything else. So I think that we have to examine the facts, and when we examine the fact, the airplanes, the sarin that was in the Syrian arsenal, for sure, we know that some of the production batches were destroyed. So all the evidences are leading to Assad operation. So
just one other question for you.
If somebody is bringing me some other facts checked, I will examine them. But there, I mean, it's very difficult to go in this direction.
Can you drop sarin from the air, or does it have to be? Can you bomb a town with sarin, or does it have to come from the ground?
Yes, of course. If you have bombs that are designed to contain nerve agents, you can bomb. That's the most efficient way, by the way, to lead a chemical attack.
Okay, so it doesn't have to have been something that was already on the ground. It could have been dropped from the air.
Of course. Like in La Ghouta, like in most chemical use in the past military operation, from the air is the most efficient way to deliver chemical weapons.
Let me just put this to you, Wael. Every time there's an atrocity in Syria, and there have been so many over the last 6 years, it's tragic, and I'm sure we all agree on that. What we hear from the international community is this word unacceptable. But we've heard the word unacceptable for years now, and it would appear that we are simply accepting that these atrocities are happening, and not much is happening. What would you like to see the international community do? And do you believe that this time, with another chemical weapons attack, any red lines have been crossed?
Yes, but please allow me to pass this about the ideology of the Syrian army, because really, It's not their ideology. Their ideology is to kill people in 2011 in demonstration in Douma, civilian demonstration, while Douma was underneath of the regime. They killed 13 persons. Just like that, they are demonstration, and they killed them in the streets. That was, there is no, at that period, Nusra, there is no Jaish al-Islam, there is nobody. There is only civilian people demonstration. And then they grow up more, and they actually become much more powerful, the ideological Syrian army, and they attacked Al-Buwaida, and they slaughtered people by knives, because at that period they have no orders to use chemicals, and there is no Nusra, and there is no Jaish al-Islam, there is nothing there, just civilian peoples. After that, 2017, they are attacking Douma by bombs and cannons. Nothing changed. Actually, if the world community take action while Obama decided to attack Syria and to take Assad out, what's going to happen to Syria? They were afraid that Nusra grows up. It grows up now. It's much bigger now. They were afraid that Daesh becomes bigger and more stronger. It is much more stronger right now. If they took Assad at that period, we will avoid all of this. We'll avoid all of this negotiation. We'll avoid all of this blood and kids and detains people. Actually, it is not only Assad crime. It is Russian crime. It's world community crime. It's the whole people crime. It's not. It's actually, where's their humanity? I'm not talking now about who is responsible, opposition, or where's the humanity now? Where's the humanity in this whole world? There's children. There's kids. There is women there.
Completely innocent people.
Exactly.
Completely innocent people. Let's go to Beirut and speak to Martin Chulov. Martin, do you see any reaction likely forthcoming from the new administration in Washington, for example, to this, what is essentially Donald Trump's first big test on Syria?
Well, Trump has been very clear over the last few months that he sees Assad as a partner in the fight against ISIS, and he doesn't want to take a stake in the Syrian civil war. Russia and Iran have taken a significant stake, so too has Turkey. Russia and Iran have been key backers of the Assad regime, and they have got them into a winning position on the battlefield. Turkey, which was a very prominent supporter of the opposition, has lost its enthusiasm for the opposition cause, and so we have a situation now where it does seem very unlikely that the opposition can actually win. And on the back of that, we are seeing Assad push, with the significant help of Hezbollah, of Iran and Russia, battlefield gains across the country. Any diplomatic moves have been stymied by the fact that the opposition is in currently a weak position. They believe, and so do international observers, that the regime will not negotiate in good faith. To them, it's all about a military victory and a total political victory. There is no chance at the moment that there will be any meaningful power sharing. And where does that leave us? That doesn't leave us anywhere closer to a solution. We have a culture of total impunity, which has taken root in Syria, and it's showcased the very worst of humanity for so many years. And there doesn't yet appear to be a formula for that to slow down.
And that being the case, doesn't any attempt by the West to intervene, to mediate, to negotiate, isn't that simply just prolonging the agony, Martin?
That's been the argument for years. That was certainly Barack Obama's argument way back in 2012 or 13, where on one hand he was calling for Assad to go, but he did not want to involve the US any more deeply than it was in this war. He'd campaigned on getting America out of Iraq. He didn't want to get involved in a conflict next door several years later. But there has been a price to pay for that, many people would say, that there hasn't been any international leadership here. It has been seen as too difficult, too hard. Well, that's become the ultimate self-fulfilling prophecy, hasn't it? We have chaos which has been spread to Europe and beyond. The region in itself is more combustible than it has been for many decades. And I don't see anyone stepping up and saying, we actually do need to take a stake in this in order to make it any better.
Let me ask you, do you think that there's likely to be any kind of meaningful reaction to this chemical weapons attack?
I think I want to say and remind all people also, while Aleppo was liberated and there were a big media storm against Syria and against Assad and against the legal government of the legitimate government of Syria, which has been elected. by the people.
Elected.
At that time, elected, yes.
Really?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
And beside that, all these people who are pretending, crying for the human rights and the human people, human lives, they have been supporting terrorists and giving weapons to these terrorists to kill Syrian people from the 2011 until now. I want to remind you that before there was no one person in Syria out of Syrian frontiers. There were all people. Syria was completely auto-sufficient on the economical side. Not one penny of debt for Syria, and that was forbidden from the imperialistic system for Syria. So that's why there were the decision to break Syria and to break this sovereignty of Syria and break. All these countries want to put Syria on the knees, but we don't, and we won't. And this is all these crocodile tears from Turkey, from US, from France, who are supporting terrorism, from Saudi Arabia, from Qatar, and all these people are supporting terrorism, are supporting the killing of Syrian people, are supporting the destruction of Syrian economy, are supporting the destruction of Syrian infrastructure, and now they are telling human rights and the humanity. So this must be clear for everyone. Okay. Syrian people is supporting. Sorry, but only I will finish my phrase. Only Syrian people is supporting his Syrian government and his army just to be sovereign for the defense of its
only
sovereignty.
Syrian people are dying actually,
defending its independence.
Okay, let me give you the last
Only Syrian civilians actually are dying now. Only Syrian civilians, actually the lady from the regime side and all the regime side believing in Assad and mixing between Assad and the country. They worship Assad. They don't believe in country. We believe in Syria. We've liberated Syria. We believe that Syria should come back for the Syrian hands, for the Syrian liberated, not for Nusra and not for Assad, not for Daesh and not for Assad, not for Iran, 100%. For sure, not for Iran. Now those people who's crying on the destroying of Syria, they allowed Iran to go in. They allowed Hezbollah to go in to destroy city after city, destroyed by the regime, by the cannons, by the aircraft of the regime has been destroyed. All that destroying, now they are crying on that destroying, and they are crying about the economy, which is belong to Makhlouf and Assad. There's no Syrian economy. This is a big lie. There is no Syrian economy. There is Makhlouf economy. There is Assad economy. There is no Syrian economy. We are demanding our economy. We are demanding our country, free country.
All right, lots of differences of opinion. I think what we all agree on is clearly
this
was a great tragedy.
And France,
yes.
Another major tragedy.
Colonization.
In
sure,
this is a free country.
Yes,
we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed. You've heard the last word there, Wael El-Khadi, Paris-based Syrian activist. Thank you very much to you, Aissa Midani, president of the Ashtar Descendants Association in Syria. And thank you very much indeed to you, Olivier Lepec, from France's Foundation for Strategic Research and chemical weapons expert. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Indeed.
Thank you.
Thanks to you for watching. Stay with us here on France 24.
Dependence.
Okay, it's time now for Media Watch, and I'm joined here in the studio by Diptyka Laure. Very nice to see you. Diptyka, let's start, shall we, with some social media reactions to what happened there in Syria.
Well, Tom, people are reacting as they only know how to in such devastating circumstances. They're taking to Twitter and Facebook to show their support. First of all, some people have been putting a yellow filter on their profile pics on Facebook and Twitter, yellow to represent the color of toxic gas. Others have been showing images. This image has been shared a few times on Twitter. In the background, you see children, dead children, being taken up by toxic balloons. So very violent images to reflect the violence of the attack on Tuesday. There's also this sense of helplessness that people feel. We're horrified by what we're seeing, by what we're hearing, but what can we do about it? Well, some people have started threads on Twitter, really discussion forums, helping people, giving them advice about if they really want to help, what they can do, donate to our organizations, which organizations to donate to. So people trying to sort of come together in the aftermath of this attack. I just want to show you some other images. This is a cartoon from Al Jazeera, another harrowing cartoon. You see a little girl there hopscotching to her grave, while Mark Nelson, who's an artist, he's been posting a lot of his sketches in the aftermath of Syrian attacks. This one, he says, is the white helmets who are basically desperately trying to help these children in the aftermath of the chemical attack. Now, others are taking aim at Bashar al-Assad himself. This Twitter account, Revolution Syria, says the winner of the Nobel Chemical Prize surprises the world again and again. And finally, this person has tweeted some graffiti. The graffiti says, "Oh Bashar, we ask God that the day comes when you wish for death and don't get it."
Amen.
Okay. All right, well, let's move on now, because Donald Trump is, of course, fairly new still in the job. He's new to foreign affairs issues. Some criticism of how he's handled this, his first major foreign relations issue.
That's right. A lot of the, it must be said, the more liberal media, the more media that's likely to be critical of Trump, have attacked him for his reaction, in which he essentially blamed the Obama administration for its inaction in Syria. The New York Times says, yeah, sure, he may have grounds to complain, but when he came into the White House with this naive view that if he drops more bombs and if he sends in more military forces than Obama did, well, then the situation would be solved. Well, he's getting kind of schooled in foreign policy, if you like, because for all his attempts to reach out to Russia, well, the Kremlin have firmly sided with Assad on this issue. So it's potentially putting him at odds with Russia.
All right, thank you very much indeed, Deeptika Laure, with today's edition of Media Watch. And thanks to you for joining us here. There'll be more news at the top of the hour. Don't go away.